we're going to do a quick review on Aclara Resources. They are a rare earth company and they have a technology component as well. So first, we're getting the first glance on who this group is, and we can see that there's a big indication here that they are not your traditional miner. They are getting started saying they are a technology company and they have their own mines. This is something that we've started seeing not that long ago, but I think is going to be more important as time goes by and as technology and the different mining processes get more intertwined. So this is a good setup. So it's a different type of vehicle. In terms of, they list 4 key investment highlights or 4 aspects that are of note. And we have 2 world-class ionic clay deposits in Brazil and Chile. So first, we get the indication of the type of deposit that they're holding, which in rare earths, we have 3 main types of deposits, which are hard rock, clays, and mineral sands. So this is telling us that is ionic clays, and that their projects are located in Brazil and Chile. Brazil is really emerging, growing very rapidly in terms of rare earths. So it's quite interesting. Number 2, they say that they have significant capabilities to produce heavy rare earths. So if you go back to the basics about rare earths, there's light and heavy. So they are focused on the heavies that are the most typically used in magnets or more used in magnets. Then the third aspect, they say they are a vertically integrated mine to magnet strategy in place. So they are aiming to have the whole supply chain within the strategy of the company. So it goes back to the point that I made just now. And they are also mentioning that they're going to be low cost in terms of cost, and they are going to aim for a low environmental footprint. And they also going to be connected with recycling of some sort, because they're talking about circular. So this is going to be something that I'm going to be investigating as we go through. Right, we go very quickly. We're going to go through this slide because we're talking about the fundamentals about the market. We have the surge in demand. We've been talking a lot about this recently. We have EVs, we have wind turbines and defense applications that require earth. And there's a new component that is emerging, which is robotics, which is really interesting. I was looking at a recent Canaccord note that dives quite deep into this, that mentioned the global supply chain constraints with China. We know that the changes in the US, the changes of the critical mineral lists, and in Europe, there's been also support to that. So let's keep going. And here we come to what they call a competitive advantage. So they are, again, going back to their deposit is focused on heavy rare earths, and they are targeting something that looks quite interesting. They're saying 16% of China's official dysprosium terbium production and 50% of demand of the US demand for EVs by 2030. So that's a really lofty goal. Hopefully it'll all work out. And we can see that they're mentioning the projects that they have. They're talking about light and heavy. And they are listing how the amount of each type of rare earths that they're going to be producing. So it's more light than heavy. And here's an interesting point. They are citing the 3 types that we talked about the deposits. So we have the ionic clays, which is this one. We're seeing that there's only a few comparables, and they list Meteoric, which is an ASX sister company, and then Mineração Verde, which should be, I think, is a privately owned Brazilian company. And then we have a bunch of other peers, and there's more than those there. There are either hard rock or mineral sands or heavy mineral sands. And when we look at they're looking at the ratio between heavy and rare earths light. So there's usually more light, and in this case, they're showing us that the ratio tends to be much higher in all the peers that they're citing, but also their type, the ionic clays, has a typically lower than rocks and mineral sands. And then we have here a quick infographic on how the magnets, a rare earth magnet for EVs is made. So you see that there's iron boron and then the heavy and the light rare earths in the composition. Now, we go back to the technology aspect. So these guys are saying, so we have ionic clay mining with a minimal environmental footprint. They're going to be using recirculations, going back to sort of that footprint. There's no tailings dam. They plan on full reforestation of extraction zones. They say it's efficient, low cost. And then they have fully demonstrated pilot plants both in Chile and Brazil. The Chilean was done in the recent past, and this year in Brazil. We can see the cycle. We're looking at how is that sort of the flow sheet of what they plan to do. And in terms of the integration, we have the concentration, separation, metallization, which is going from the ionic clay projects through a separation facility that is planned to be done in the US. So they're trying to lean in on the US position and current interest. And then they want to go even further so that they can produce actual magnets, which is something that, if we go back to a review that I did not long ago on MP materials, they have the same plan. They're not producing magnets just yet. They're producing a concentrate, but they are aiming to do that. And here we go a little bit further into the different processes that they're planning to do. And one thing that is interesting here, I'm always going to be attracted to the exploration bit. And they do say that they plan to use, or they are using AI to supercharge their efforts. They're not just doing traditional exploration, but they are actually using AI and using some sort of proprietary equipment and algorithms. And they did receive a grant from the Chilean government, which is also interesting. All right, so keep going. Here we have a little bit, not much, and I did have a look to see if we had grades and sort of more details, but we don't get a lot of that. So they say that the grades they have heavy rare earths and with high grades. The contents of light rare earths are high. The deposit is large. There's a low stripping ratio, so compared to other types. They have high grade carbonate with low impurities. They have supportive government and local community and plus exploration potential. They drilled 12,000 meters. They have a pilot plant. They have an MOU with the Brazilian state of Goiás. They did a PA in 2024. So they're planning to release their resources by third quarter this year. So it should be coming very soon with with also a pre-feasibility study and a feasibility study. So it's a really interesting time to be looking at this company, because if the results of these studies are good and their expectations are confirmed, they should be able to be re-rating very quickly. So that's quite interesting. Now we go to their Chilean activities. Again, they say that the grades are very high. I'm not, because I want these reviews to be sort of more genuine. I don't want to have a deep research before. I will update you afterwards if I see anything, but you can always find any sort of quick comments on Twitter, which is where I usually am. And we have between Twitter and LinkedIn, we have nearly 40,000 people. So this channel is very tiny in comparison with what we have in other platforms. So again, very similar, low capex, easy access to infrastructure. They have exploration potential. They've drilled enough. They did their PA is from 2021. I would expect that would need some adjustments, updated costing. They've done. So they're more advanced with the Chilean operations. So we should be reading a little bit more there. So they have, here, they have a partnership, I think substantial partnership with a couple of Chilean entities. And that's interesting. They're talking about how Chile is a good, investment destination, and it certainly is. And then we go to the U.S. part. Go back to the projects in Brazil and Chile, and then separation plan in the U.S. They have done substantial work there. They have high recoveries, high purity product achieved. They have a solvent extraction process. So there's a lot of work that they've done. And if we go to the milestones, we have a few ticks there on location defined. Okay, so they should have defined the location and they should be having a decision on the pilot plant and operation startup. So that's very interesting. It's good for them to be ready to do this at this time, because obviously we don't know what's going to happen to the US sort of drive after Trump leaves office. I mean, there's a lot of things that are good, despite all the chaos that he's created, there's a lot of things that are actually good for the country. So I would expect that some of those are going to stay, but we will see. Okay, so in their target, they plan to get more than the full 2024 demand for dysprosium and terbium, and about 50% of 2030's demand. So that's quite substantial. And the fourth leg of the table, the fourth leg of the table is going back to the joint venture, the permanent magnet. So that connects to the Chilean partner. There's a Chilean partner that is connected to this, the magnets. So actually making the magnets. And they have done substantial work. Then the next catalyst is a pilot plant construction by the end of this year, scoping study by the end of this year, pre-feasibility by the end of the year. So this year is on fire. Aclara is on fire. Well done. Okay. So we have among the strong shareholders, the supporters, we have Eduardo Hochschild, who is, a substantial person. So good job on getting his support. Have a mine. When I was still in Argentina, they already had a mine. They still have it in southern Argentina. One of our clients was half owner of that mine, so we had some work with them. Very interesting company. And then they have an alliance with. So they're doing a lot of engagement with different entities. They seem to be very well connected. They are really tapping into the Latin American scene, because that's super important if you're going to be having some sort of production facilities in something that is not traditionally a mine is going to be kind of something else. So I think it's really important to have good support locally. Well, it's always important, but not just the community as the typical, will help you if you let us operate, will be a good neighbor and all those things, which are fine, but they're also having the support, financial support and partnership support, which I think is not that common, and I think is really, really great. Okay, so current market cap. All right, so the current market cap is about 300 million, 320 million. So they may not have updated this, or I found an older one. Anyway, and then they are sort of adding up the NPVs of the different parts of what they have. So the sum of the parts, you can see that there's an upside here. And yeah, it's quite nice. And then they have CAP is another Chilean entity. Quite nice. I'm going to go over the appendix. It's uniquely positioned to be a leading, reliable, a very important supplier of heavy rare earths outside of China. I think that's evident from what they're saying. This is all stacking up quite nicely. And they have technology that is being developed in the US, which I think at this time is quite substantial and significant. They have both heavy and light rare earths in friendly jurisdictions. Both Chile and Brazil are that. They're fully aligned with the US and Europe requirements and policies and regulations. We can see, well, they talk about the demand, the substantial demand coming, very limited availability of heavy rare earths. So there's always more because of the ratio that we were seeing. There's always going to be more of the light. So that's a good thing. The ratio patented and awarded. I didn't know that. Okay, and very capable and important shareholders with good pockets to have and good partners to have. And yeah, I think this is a really interesting option. Let me just go very quickly through the. So that's, and we can see that this is in Spanish. It's a concentrate of rare earths, tierras raras, and this is a 90% purity plus, and that's probably the pilot plant in Chile, I would think, because of the inset. Let me just go quickly through the appendix to see if there's anything we talk here. Okay, so you have the expected production. You have Linus. So if we see, I hope that you can see that, but if you see my hand, the cursor here, so this is the demand that Argus Media has mentioned, and this is what they plan to contribute. So if we look at Linus MP, they would be, this is 2023 and this is 2030. This goes back to the numbers that we're seeing, that they're big numbers. So they're very ambitious. So I think that's a great thing. And it's 7% of the 2030 supply gap. So this is what the supply gap is, this portion. China, we've seen this. China is really taking most of it. We've seen Southeast Asia contributing. Myanmar has entered the room, but the rest of the world remains very limited. Yes, we've done that. There's the supply. So okay, so they're sort of looking at things that they have that would be better than a current supplier. The value in use, so it's as any sort of metal, as technology evolves, the cost of the material is going to be falling because things get cheaper. They're saying that the dysprosium value in use in EVs may vary from 2K to 6K and is significantly more the Chinese prices. So this can go back to the price that was guaranteed by the government in the MP materials deal. So we may see that the market is going to be moving towards that. And here talking about hookah piece. So it's they do mining, they refine steel, they have ports and other businesses. So it's a substantial partner, 1 billion in market value, very important. And here, okay, so we have the between the Penco module and Carina module, we have the Carina module, the Brazilian one is bigger, so it has much larger values, and obviously the MPV is going to be higher. It's it's substantial, from 128 million to 1.5 to 2.2 billion. So it's substantial, and also the requirements are much bigger. So slated for operation 27, 27, 28. Oh, that one. So the piloting, we've talked about that. Done. Okay. To sum up, let's go back to the first slide. All right. So I think this is a really interesting company that combines a bunch of different elements. It's a presentation. I've been meaning to do this for a while. And it's a really interesting play because they have the heavy rare earths, they have the sort of combined supply chain. They're going to be integrated, and they want to get to the magnets as well. And as the plan is said, it should be possible. They have the plan for the whole supply chain. They have done extremely well over the past couple of months, and of course, news have been very positive, and the world is wanting more ads, but they have been working for years to get to this point. I think it's interesting that they're diversified in terms of locations. They have great places where rare earths are not only present, but also they have created deep networks within each country. And they didn't talk a lot about the Brazilian side of things, but that will be something that I will be looking more into. So I will make a note of that. I will do that. And I think they're very well positioned to be producing very soon. And I think it was 27, 28. And they could even, move faster if things progress. But they still need to work on the resources and the statement. But yeah, it's looking pretty interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this quick review. And now that I have a little bit more time to do these reviews, that I noticed that you enjoyed the previous one. So we'll be doing more of these just as a review with me. And I hope you enjoy. All right. Bye, everyone. And if you enjoy this video, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you very soon.